Have you ever wondered how the Israel-Palestine issue began? It's a tale that dates back to the late 19th century, a time when the winds of nationalism were sweeping across Europe and reaching the far corners of the Middle East. In the late 1800s, Jewish people, facing persecution in Europe, began to advocate for their own state. This movement, known as Zionism, saw a homeland in Palestine, a place deeply rooted in Jewish history. However, this was a land already home to an Arab majority, who had their own burgeoning sense of nationalism. Fast forward to the early 20th century, we see the Balfour Declaration come into play. In 1917, Arthur Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, penned a letter expressing Britain's support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This promise was made without consulting the Arab majority living in Palestine, setting the stage for tension. Following the Balfour Declaration, Britain took control of Palestine under the British Mandate, approved by the League of Nations in 1922. The Mandate period witnessed increased Jewish immigration to Palestine, leading to demographic shifts and growing discontent among the Arab population. The tension between the two communities escalated into sporadic violence, signaling the start of a deep-seated conflict. The creation of Israel in 1948 marks a significant point in this narrative. After the horrors of the Holocaust, the United Nations proposed a partition plan, dividing Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. Jewish leaders accepted the plan, but Arab leaders did not, leading to the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, immediately after Israel declared its independence. This period, from the late 19th century to the creation of Israel in 1948, is where the roots of the Israel-Palestine conflict lie. It's a time marked by national aspirations, geopolitical maneuvering, and a legacy of promises made but not kept. With this background, we can start to grasp the roots of the Israel-Palestine conflict. So, what happened after the creation of Israel? Well, the establishment of the State of Israel was immediately followed by the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, a pivotal event in the history of this region. This war was fought between the newly established Israel and a military coalition of Arab states over the control of former British Palestine. This conflict was significant for several reasons. Firstly, it marked the first in a series of wars fought over the Israeli-Palestinian issue. Secondly, it resulted in a drastic change in the demographics of Palestine. A large number of Palestinian Arabs, estimated in the hundreds of thousands, were displaced during the war, an event known to Palestinians as the Nakba, or catastrophe. This displacement of the Palestinian Arab population created a refugee crisis that still resonates today, with descendants of those original refugees still living in camps in neighboring Arab countries. This war also led to the establishment of armistice lines, known as the Green Line, which became the de facto borders of Israel until 1967. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War was a complex and transformative event that shaped the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. It was a war that left deep scars and unresolved issues that continue to fuel the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The 1948 war set the stage for the many conflicts to follow. The 1967 Six-Day War was a turning point in Israel-Palestine history. But why? Let's delve into this. In June of 1967, Israel and neighboring Arab countries, including Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, engaged in a war that, despite its brevity, had long-term implications for the region. This conflict, known as the Six-Day War, was sparked by escalating tensions and territorial disputes. Israel, feeling threatened by the mobilization of Egyptian troops along its border, launched a preemptive strike against Egypt. This move led to a ripple effect, pulling Jordan and Syria into the fray. The war was brief but intense, and when the dust settled, the map of the Middle East was dramatically altered. Israel emerged from the war controlling several territories that had been under Arab control, including the West Bank from Jordan, the Golan Heights from Syria, and the Gaza Strip and Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. This territorial expansion marked a major shift in the dynamics of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The aftermath of the Six-Day War saw an increase in Jewish settlement in these occupied territories, particularly in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. This sparked controversy and tension, as Palestinians viewed these lands as integral parts of their future state. The occupation also led to a significant increase in the Palestinian refugee population, further fueling the conflict. The United Nations Security Council passed Resolution 242 later in 1967, calling for Israel's withdrawal from the occupied territories. However, the interpretation and implementation of this resolution have been subjects of ongoing debate and contention. The Six-Day War and its aftermath led to a hardening of attitudes on both sides. The occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip by Israel ignited a new phase of the conflict, characterized by ongoing disputes over land rights, settlement policies, and the status of Jerusalem. This period also saw a rise in Palestinian nationalism and the birth of major political movements like the Palestine Liberation Organization, which played a pivotal role in shaping the conflict in the years to come. The occupation of these territories intensified the conflict. It set the stage for decades of political struggle, violence, and negotiation, the reverberations of which are still felt in the present day. The Six-Day War, though brief, had far-reaching consequences that continue to shape the Israel-Palestine conflict. The late 20th century saw a rise in Palestinian resistance known as Intifada. But what sparked these uprisings? The First Intifada, which began in 1987, was primarily a grassroots uprising against decades of Israeli occupation. Fueled by the frustration of the Palestinian people, the uprising was characterized by civil disobedience, general strikes, boycotts, and largely nonviolent protests, punctuated with moments of violence. The First Intifada led to a shift in international perceptions of the conflict. The world bore witness to the struggle of a stateless people, and the plea for Palestinian self-determination became impossible to ignore. The Intifada also led to the Madrid Conference in 1991, where, for the first time, Palestinians and Israelis sat face-to-face to discuss the possibility of peace. However, the peace process was fraught with challenges, and by the year 2000, the Second Intifada had begun. This uprising was markedly more violent, with suicide bombings and armed attacks becoming tragically commonplace. The Israeli Defense Forces responded with force, and the death toll on both sides rose sharply. The Second Intifada had profound consequences. It led to a hardening of attitudes on both sides and a significant setback to the peace process. The daily violence created deep-seated mistrust and fear, making the prospect of a peaceful resolution seem more distant than ever. Moreover, the Second Intifada resulted in a considerable impact on the Palestinian population. The Israeli government established more stringent security measures, including the controversial separation barrier. The Palestinian economy suffered greatly, with poverty and unemployment rates soaring. The Intifadas marked a new era of resistance in the Israel-Palestine conflict. These uprisings, born from decades of frustration and the desire for self-determination, have left an indelible mark on the history of the region. They highlighted the urgent need for a just and lasting resolution, a need that remains unmet to this day. So, where do we stand today in the Israel-Palestine conflict? The complications of this enduring conflict are deep-rooted and multifaceted, but a few key issues persist in the forefront of discussion. One of the most contentious issues in the dispute is the status of Jerusalem. Palestinians see East Jerusalem, which was annexed by Israel in 1967, as the capital of their future independent state. However, Israel considers the entirety of Jerusalem its undivided capital, a stance that was notably backed by the Trump administration in 2017 when they recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, a move that stirred international controversy. The issue of Israeli settlements in the West Bank is another major sticking point. Despite international law viewing them as illegal, Israel continues to build settlements, leading to increased tension and often violent clashes. Then there's the question of the two-state solution, an idea that has been a cornerstone of peace negotiations for years. However, its feasibility is under constant scrutiny, and the increasing polarization on both sides has made the path towards it seem ever more challenging. Recent years have also seen significant developments. During the Trump administration, the Abraham Accords were brokered, leading to the normalization of relations between Israel and several Arab states. These accords were seen as a diplomatic victory, yet they were also criticized for sidelining the Palestinians. In 2021, the first Palestinian elections in 15 years were set to take place, seen by many as a potential step towards resetting relations. However, these were likely delayed due to a dispute over voting in East Jerusalem and internal divisions within the Palestinian Fatah party. On the international stage, the conflict continues to draw in global powers. Jared Kushner, senior advisor to former President Trump, is reportedly seeking investment for his new firm from Middle Eastern countries, adding another layer of complexity to the geopolitical landscape. Despite these developments and countless attempts at negotiations, a resolution remains elusive. The Israel-Palestine issue remains one of the most complex and contentious conflicts in the world. So, what have we learned about the Israel-Palestine issue? We've journeyed through the origins of the conflict, from its roots in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, to the pivotal moments of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and the Six-Day War. We've seen the devastating impacts of the First and Second Intifada, and how they've shaped the current state of affairs. We've dissected how these historical events have led to the complex web of political, religious, and territorial disputes that define the conflict today. From the debate over Jerusalem's status, to the internal divisions within both Israeli and Palestinian societies, we've unraveled a narrative that's far from black and white. This journey through history isn't just a trip down memory lane, it's a vital tool in understanding the present and shaping the future. By grasping the historical context, we can better comprehend the complexities and nuances of the Israel-Palestine issue. This understanding is key to fostering dialogue, promoting empathy, and paving the way for potential solutions. While the path to peace may be unclear, understanding the history of the conflict is crucial in moving forward.